All right. The special meeting of the Fairfield Board of Education is called to order. The date is October 29th. I am the chair, Christine Vitale, and I'm joined tonight by board members Ms. Rotelli, Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Gerber, Ms. Jacobson, Ms. Leeper. That's it for now. Mrs. Maxicanelli and Mr. Asa should be joining us short. Mrs. Maxicanelli, I see she just joined us. Ask you all to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let's move up the pledge again.
I'm here, Christine. Sorry.
And Mr. Asa just joined us. Thank you for joining us all tonight. The reason for this special meeting is to meet with our student groups. We're joined tonight by the Fairfield Equity Coalition and our two high school groups, the Ludlow Youth for Equity and the Ward Voices for Equity. The way the format of the meeting tonight is going to be just an introduction of each of our student groups. They have some ideas they want to share with the board and some proposals to put before us. And we just wanted to take this time to all connect. I had the pleasure of meeting with some of the representatives from the Fairfield Equity Coalition a few weeks ago. I have not had the pleasure of really connecting with the students from our two high schools, so I'm looking forward to the discussion ahead. I know Mr. Cummings has met with these student groups, and I'm going to let him offer some just opening words, because I think that he might have more to add to the conversation right now.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Mike Cummings, Superintendent of Schools. I'm very pleased to have this meeting tonight. It's been in the works for a while, really from the summer, and in working with both the groups, the student groups as well as the Fairfield Equity Coalition, it's very clear that they've identified some important issues that they want to address with the board. Their approach to this has been, I would say, both very studious, academic, as well as driven for a real passion for their subject and for the issues that these subjects present. So I've met with both groups this week and prior to the presentations, and I know that both groups are ready to go. We were going to start with the student groups tonight first, and then turn it to the Equity Coalition. So I know tonight, I think Sarah is going to start us off, and she's got a presentation to speak to, as well as a proposal. And then when she's done, we talked about with the groups that the board may either decide to ask questions after each presentation or wait till both presentations are done and then ask together. So we'll see what happens. But why don't we start with Sarah, and I'll turn it over to Sarah and the other students who have joined her tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. It's not really loading that well. Kala, do you maybe want to try it from your computer? See if it works better.
How's it looking? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Just loading. So.
Okay.
Okay.
If I'm sharing my entire screen, I might need to grab something else to. Can I fixate the screen on the presentation, or will it just share my entire screen, like, and everything that I'm doing?
Kala, it shares your entire screen.
Okay. Okay. Is it still loading?
It looks like it's still, no, lost you. It came up and then we lost you.
Okay.
I click the share button again. It seems like when you went to present, it actually knocked you out of the share.
Okay. Yeah.
Kala, do you want me to try? I got it up, like or like the share option, like finally.
Okay.
Okay.
So everybody on the call, you guys are seeing what it's like, in our classroom sometimes when we're trying to do some hybrid learning.
Is everyone able to see my screen?
No.
Sarah, I think your bandwidth might be a little too wonky right now. I think Kala might have to show her screen.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna try that. And I'm just not gonna present until you guys can see it. It's connecting. Yeah. It says you're sharing your screen now.
Yeah, and if you have an issue with the present now, because sometimes that'll. Is this a Chromebook? By any chance?
This is a no. This is a MacBook.
Oh, okay. If you have issues with the present now, you could actually just keep it in this mode and just close the toolbar. But it should work.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna hit present now and just see if that.
Yep, all good.
You got it, Kala.
Great. Okay. I think we are ready to start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Genovese. I'm a 10th grader at Fairfield Ward High School, and I'm one of the student leads in Fairfield Ward Voices for Equity.
Hello, I am Calla Brown. I'm also a 10th grader, and I'm a member of Voices for Equity.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Mughal. I'm a 12th grader at Fairfield Ludlow High School, and I'm one of the student leads at Fairfield Ludlow Youth for Equity.
I'd also like to mention a very important person, someone who's helped us with our work significantly, and that's Andrew Mcinnis. He is an 11th grader at Fairfield Ludlow High School, and he's one of the student leads in Ludlow Youth for Equity. Unfortunately, he was unable to make tonight's meeting. However, he's done so much work for our clubs and with this presentation that we didn't want his work to go unmentioned.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for having us, everyone. We'd like to say a special thank you to the Board of Ed and to Superintendent Cummings for letting us speak to you about our club. With this presentation, we hope to introduce our club to you, talk about some of the work we've been doing, and what we hope to accomplish in the future. We also want to educate you on the term master and why it is beneficial to remove this title.
Presented above is a chart to briefly explain all of the equity work that is being done in Fairfield. We understand that there are a lot of branches, so this chart is to clarify all of the organizations. First off, the umbrella organization for all of the equity groups in Fairfield is Fairfield Equity Project. This platform is used for creative videos and to promote other clubs' individual works. From here, we have branches off to the FEA Anti-Racism Committee, the Fairfield Equity Coalition, and the Town's Equity Task Force. In addition to this, there are two high school groups, Fairfield Ward Voices for Equity and Ludlow Youth for Equity. We often work individually, however, we've been working collaboratively these past few months. As some background information about our club, we have included some of the work we've done since winter 2019.
So Voices for Equity was funded 5 years ago. Since winter of 2019, Voices for Equity has had several events highlighting our success. On December 20th, we held a mini conference. With this, there were 3 breakout sessions, including a privilege walk, a talk session with guest speaker Tiana Kraus, who is a justice advisor and administrative intern at Bridgeport Gen Now, and an executive director of Bridgeport Student Voice, which is a youth-led organization, and a session to work collaboratively and put together a puzzle in the shape of a megaphone to symbolize using our voice to advocate for ourselves as well as others. We would have had our 4th annual statewide conference in March 2020, however, it was canceled this year due to COVID-19. We hope this year we can do a conference virtually. And then on June 12th, we held a chalk event where students could express themselves and their feelings regarding the recent events, including the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the countless others through chalk art.
After the tragic and unjust death of George Floyd, we released a statement with information on where we stand regarding Black Lives Matter. We've also submitted a request for anti-racist education throughout all grade levels and within staff teachings, a request thankfully approved by Superintendent Cummings. Lastly, we've sent a letter to the First Selectwoman Brenda Kupchik, members of the Fairfield RTM, and members of the Fairfield Police Commission to #TakeThePledge. This pledge addresses the use of force in the police and acknowledges the reform that is needed in the system. We have also requested that they sign the My Brother's Keeper Alliance to create safe and supportive communities for young men of color.
Youth for Equity is the 4th year of operation, and since the winter of 2019, Youth for Equity has helped organize protests in the wake of George Floyd's death. We've also attended with some other leaders in Fairfield to talk about racial inequities within our communities. Some other things to highlight is that Youth for Equity holds a toy and coat drive in the winter for the Borough Center. This year that might look a little different because of the pandemic. In addition, we were able to attend the Fairfield Board. And lastly, we changed our club's name from Diversity Club to Youth for Equity, seeing as that was a more appropriate title for the work we wanted to do. Overall, Ludlow and Ward students have been active citizens. We've demonstrated our rights to protest and our freedom of speech by participating in peaceful protests, walks, vigils, and other events. We have not only used our voices in advocacy, but we've also created memorable moments and bonding experiences. The protest on June 2nd led us to take initiative to work together with our equity work, rather than allowing crosstown rivalry to keep us apart.
With the protests bringing us together, Ward Voices for Equity and Ludlow Youth for Equity began a collaborative partnership. Since then, we've held bi-weekly meetings and had meaningful conversations where we developed new ideas for our clubs, including activities for the Fairfield Equity Project. The Fairfield Equity Project was formed as a platform for students to express their activism and equity work in a different, creative way. We hope you check out our most recent video on voting in Fairfield on our YouTube channel.
So some plans we hope to see on the horizon, a mentorship program. This program where older members can be partnered with younger members and newer students to help them learn the ropes and feel welcome in the school environment.
We plan on organizing a book club so we can have more meaningful discussions and to learn from one another. We plan to read great novels such as Stamped by Ibram X. Kendi, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, and other significant novels in order to better understand racism in our world. Equity CT. We are starting a bond with Equity CT, and we hope to participate in a panel about youth activism in the near future. For partnerships, like this amazing Ludlow Ward partnership, we hope to strengthen and build new ones in Bridgeport, Westport, and other surrounding towns.
Girl Talk. This is a new branch of Ward Voices for Equity where girls can meet to discuss the struggles that many teens face, and Ludlow students are welcome to join in the discussion as well. Also, a shout out to Amanda Grant, an 11th grader at Ward, who was able to start this.
Fairfield Equity Project, we plan to continue to use this YouTube channel as a creative outlet to produce informative equity content for the town of Fairfield and beyond. About the master title change. First off, other towns have contacted us asking us to set up a time to discuss this title change in support of our work. The Center for Youth Leadership at Brian McMahon High School in Norwalk and the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council at Stanford High School contacted Christine Vitale. They asked if we could discuss with them the merits of replacing the administrative title headmaster with the title of principal at the district's high school levels.
We are requesting to change the terms master, as in headmaster or housemaster, to principal or some appropriate version. This would change the terms headmaster and housemaster to principal and house principal.
So why do we want this change? First off, several well-known colleges have also made this change, including Harvard, Rice, Yale, Princeton, and several other universities, because of the historical context tied to slavery. As you may know, the word master derives from the Latin term magister, a form of address for scholars or teachers. Regardless of its derivation, the word has echoes of slavery. We've heard from students at Ludlow and Ward high schools that the terms headmaster and principal are used interchangeably, but the school's websites reference the word headmaster. We appreciate this time, and changing the title should not be a heavy lift. Yes, the change may come with some costs, for example, stationaries, but we consider this expense to be more than worthwhile. Lastly, we want students to feel comfortable. Having terms tied to ownership and abuse of control is not suitable for a school environment. In addition, the terms may offend several students with African American ethnic backgrounds. As Stephen Davis, a studies professor who heads Pearson College, reported, there should be no context in our society or in our university in which an African American student, professor, or staff person, or any person for that matter, should be asked to call anyone master.
So why do words matter? Words, especially words describing leadership, have all sorts of connotations. For example, what do you think of when you hear the word Supreme Court Justice? What about captain or CEO? These words have power and imply control. It is the same thing with the word headmaster. These terms can become isolating and intimidating, especially to students. The title should represent leadership within a community and not power over one. We asked students, teachers, and parents in Fairfield Public Schools what they thought of when they heard the word master. This is what they said.
Above is word art that shows responses we got from people. The bigger the word you see, the more frequently that response came up. We'd also like to thank Daniel Jaber, a 12th grader at Fairfield Ward High School, rather. Not with us right now, but he was able to make this amazing graphic.
Out of a total of 124 responses from people across Fairfield, over 1/3 of the respondees said that the word master reminded them of slavery. There were also responses such as owner, power, control, abuse, and offensive. About 71% of the results included terms tied to slavery or to control and power. This is not what leadership means in Fairfield, so why should it be represented that way? Above, you can see anecdotes from two students from Ludlow and Ward. We included these to demonstrate how important our work is to the students and what our club means to them. Andrew Mcinnis, a junior, said that being part of Youth for Equity since freshman year has made me open my eyes more than I ever had. I'm able to stand with my peers in solidarity, even though I will never experience what some of my peers have experienced in Fairfield and beyond.
Jaden Lynn Antonio, class of 2022, said, being in Youth for Equity means that people who often don't have the opportunity to speak finally get the chance to, in a safe environment where we listen and care for each other and our community.
A senior said, Fairfield Ward Voices for Equity has helped me speak with a voice that I thought I didn't have. I found a large group of people I was able to understand and relate to. I'm proud of the work my peers and I have done. I look forward to continuing to make a difference in the future.
Amanda Grant, class of 2022, said, being a part of Voices for Equity has helped me learn more about society and let me express myself and actually feel heard. I got the chance, too, to start a branch off of the club where I can help girls my age know what they are worth and learn communication skills.
Lastly, everyone on our team and everyone who supports our work, thank you for your patience, your time, and your interest.
We are now open to questions if you have them, or if you want to wait till the end.
No, why don't we field some questions from the board right now? If any members have questions. Right now I can't, let me see, hold on.
Would you like me to continue sharing my screen if you guys want to go back to certain slides? Or
Oh, hold on, let me go back. My screen is, Mrs. Mcinnis, so you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And obviously, thank you for the presentation and for the all the work that you did into this. You've been working for years without coming before the board. And so I just one presentation doesn't begin to capture the time investment you guys have made. So thank you. I am wondering, though, because you did make reference to IDing racial inequities. And beyond some of the ones that we've talked about at the board table, you know, we're well aware of the statewide effort to improve minority recruitment for staff, and that there has been state statute change regarding social studies curriculum. But I was wondering, what are some other school-focused things that your group has, you know, done research on and unearthed?
Believe not this year, but we haven't touched on it this year yet. But last year we were working on implementing Black and African American historical studies, and adding that as an elective.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions right now? Okay. Mr. Peterson, did you have your hand up or?
Yeah, I did. I just I was going to ask some operational questions about the headmaster title change. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or you want to save that for later.
No, we can ask it now.
I think that this as you say, it's not a heavy lift. I think that if this is a term that any part of our community finds offensive, I certainly have no objection to changing it. On an operational basis, I imagine that the cost would be minimal in terms of, you know, sign plates and that sort of thing. But Mike, I was just curious in terms of, it sounds like these groups have identified that other districts have made this switch. I kind of I wouldn't want to disadvantage somebody's career if it looks like they're getting demoted. Does that make any sense? Like, obviously they've reached a certain point where they are a housemaster. They have, you know, as an administrator, they reach that point. Are these terms getting used elsewhere in the country's schools? Will it be understandable from a resume standpoint?
It's a great question. I appreciate the perspective that brings. I do know that most recently the Shelton school system replaced the terms with principal and house principal. I think the suggestion offered by the students that housemaster becomes house principal elevates that position a bit more than, say, assistant principal would on a resume, to your point. And I will tell you that I've also had conversation with both of our current high school principals, as well as representatives for them. And there's an understanding from their perspective that this is what the concerns are with the term. And they are certainly open to making the changes out of respect for the concerns raised by the students.
No, that's good to hear. And clearly, you know, these are not changes that are being made in a vacuum. And I don't know how broad this trend is across the country, but I could see this being raised in high schools across the country. There's certainly no need for this title, and there's no objection to, you know, there's no impediment to changing it. I didn't want to disadvantage anyone on a career path.
It's a fair point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And as the students mentioned in the presentation, Stanford and Brian McMahon, representatives from those two groups, had reached out to me, and they were trying to, reach out to all districts in Connecticut. At the time, I just really let them know that it wasn't my call, but that we were planning on having our students come before the board for a presentation, just so you could all get feedback. They had met with Superintendent Cummings, and the headmasters also had given their feedback prior to coming to you. So, Mike, if we move forward with this, what would do you foresee it happening this school year, next school year? I mean, I don't know what would happen in terms of just logistically.
We have some procedural things, as already been mentioned by the students. I think we'd have to make some name changes. I do know that the title is in the administrator's bargaining unit contract, so we'd have to make a change there. But since that contract is going to be up for discussion in the next few months anyway, it's an opportune time to make that change. As was the students pointed out, many of the community already call Mr. Hudson, Mr. Cavana principal. I think the issue may be more even among the housemaster and changing that title. But I could certainly work forward from here, beginning to make those changes. As I said, there's an understanding from the current high school administration that this is something that we should do. And really what we wanted to wait for was an opportunity for the students to raise their voice around it. We wanted to make sure that they were heard and counted. And that people understood that it was their voices requesting the change.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobson.
Hi, just thank you everyone for the presentation. It was fabulous. I really appreciate it. Another logistical question though. I believe the title or introductory letter within the program of studies includes it as well. And that normally goes to print, I think January-ish, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
They'll be getting that ready right before the holidays, actually. So we're going to have to make, if everybody's okay with this, we're going to have to begin making changes now because, as Ms. Jacobson, as you point out, that document lasts a year on the website.
right. So that would be through next year if it went in that way, right?
Thank you.
But just raising that as another area. I'm sure there's a ton of them, but I know that one's like a print, so we'll be able to change it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, well, seeing no questions right now, we'll move on to the Fairfield Equity Coalition for their presentation, and maybe we'll come back at the end for questions for everybody. So who is going to present for FEC?
Hi, we don't have a presentation. We were just going to speak to all of you. Is that all right?
That is absolutely perfect. You can just introduce yourselves, tell us about the work that you have been doing, what your request is for the board. I have forwarded the survey to the board, so they have seen it and are prepared to ask questions and give some feedback. But before we get to that, why don't you just tell us about the work that you've been doing and introduce the members of your group that are here, or if you're solo, that's perfect too. I'm kind of losing some. I see just some phone numbers, and I don't know if those are just the public calling in or if we have some members of your group as well.
Yes, so I'm here today with Ian. He is the head of our editorial committee. My name is Lanesia. I am the president of Fairfield Equity Coalition. I would like to begin by thanking the Board of Education and Mr. Cummings for allowing us here today to present to all of you. So I am here with Ian, and we're here today to request our survey. So to begin with, we are here to present a request for the survey to be disseminated to the teachers and faculties of the Fairfield Public Schools. The Fairfield Equity Coalition is a youth-led organization. We are fighting and yearning for a more inclusive and to promote educational equity within FPS. Our organization is compiled of 15 to 27 years of age that make up 11 committees. If our request is approved, the following steps will be an email sent through the FEC's email to all of the teachers and faculties within FPS K through 12. Once we collect this data, it will be incorporated within our Promoting Anti-Racism and Racial Equity in FPS report. Now I will pass it to Ian to speak upon the report and the significance of this data. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Let me know if you can't hear me. My internet has been very difficult recently. I just want to echo Lanesia in thanking everyone for calling this special meeting. We're super grateful to be able to discuss this in a formal setting. I know I haven't been a part of FEC since its founding, but I know that we've been in contact with the administration and the district from our founding. So I know we appreciate that dialogue that we've had since, over the summer. And so I guess I'll just jump right in and talk about what the report is that we've been working on since early June. As Lanesia said, the report is entitled Promoting Anti-Racism and Racial Equity in Fairfield Public Schools. And it outlines the ways in which we believe anti-racism principles and racial equity can be promoted within district over the short and long-term period. And so, the report is extensive. Like I said, it's been written over the summer. We had a policy committees do 6 to 8 weeks of extensive research in promoting racial equity in terms of national data. And so from that research and that hard effort, we composed a report of what we call 10 actionable changes that are broad recommendations for achieving these goals, like I said, of promoting anti-racism and racial equity within the district. And these recommendations range from changes to our curriculum, diversifying the curriculum, and also things like hiring practices, which I understand has been something that the district and the state has been working on for quite some time. We developed these actionable changes based on the perspectives of the FPS community itself. Back in June, we had administered 2 surveys of both current and former students of the district, as well as teachers and faculty. And it was with those perspectives that we got, an overwhelming majority of responses that kind of influenced the actual recommendations itself. So from the get-go, our organization has tried to ground our recommendations, ground our advocacy in the voices of the district itself. So you'll notice, once we present the report in December, which I know we had talked about with Ms. Vitale, once we present that, you'll notice that a lot of this is based in the desires of the community itself. I know also, I didn't personally, but I know that our co-founders and some of our leaders were also working with district officials as well, as far as developing a groundwork on which to improve and develop our actionable changes. So, we really appreciate that collaboration that we've had, since we were founded in early June. Also important to note that in addition to the extensive research that we did of national data and national academic thinking in regards to racial equity and education, we also, like I said, based our actionable changes in the perspectives of the community itself. And so we have throughout our report qualitative and quantitative data that is talking about the need for diversifying curriculum and all of our actionable changes. So that's kind of an overview of the report. I know we've spoken about that to several people, but I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about it with everybody here tonight. And as far as the teacher survey that I know is disseminated to everybody in advance, thank you to Ms. Vitale for getting that disseminated. Our hopes for this teacher survey and the staff survey as well is to further ground our report in the perspectives of the FPS community. So the goal of the survey, like our past ones, is to invite elaborative qualitative responses detailing the personal experiences of faculty and staff, just to further solidify the point that we're trying to make, that these reforms are relevant and they're also important to Fairfield itself, and it's not just some academic exercise that we're engaging in. And so that's basically a sense of what the survey is, what the report is. And I have a copy of the survey. I know everyone else does. And rather than go through it question by question, I figured it would be a good time to open up to other questions, since I know it's been disseminated already.
Before I take it to the board for questions, you mentioned a student survey. Just for the clarification, that was not something that was sent out officially through the Fairfield Public Schools. That was something just on your social media and through word of mouth and just connections that students were able to take the survey online. Just
Yeah,
for the board. Yeah, for the board, just so you know that I did share that surveys need to go through us, which is part of the reason why this FEC is here with us tonight. But just to put it in some context. With that, I will open it up to the board for any questions about the group, about the work that they've done, or specific survey questions. My view is a little bit off, so if you're raising your hand, I'm not calling on you, feel free to jump in. Mrs. Mcinnis.
Okay, sorry. And I apologize that you said this at the beginning and I missed it. I'm not clear who the two of you are. You're not students, correct?
I am 19. I'm a sophomore in college.
Yeah, we're both alumni of the district. I graduated in 2016.
I graduated
And
in 2019.
yeah, and we, like I said, Lenasia is the president of the organization, and I lead the editorial committee, which is responsible with this report that we've been developing for months. So that's the context. Sorry if I didn't make that clear earlier.
No, I was more worried that I had missed it and I was embarrassed, so I wanted to just check. With the survey, albeit informal, that you did, I'm just going to kind of piggyback on the question that I asked the students. I was wondering if there were any specific target areas that were unearthed for you, that could, that may have been the guide for some of the questions you asked in the survey that's going to become, that is before us for approval.
Absolutely. So our initial set of surveys, we asked students about, broadly speaking, we asked students about their experience with the ways in which race was both taught in FPS and also dealt with. So incidents of racism or racially insensitive comments, we wanted to get a sense of, from students directly, like, what was their experience? And, we got, from that first survey, we got an overwhelming 400 people to respond to it, both current and former students. And in those responses, we got, a sense of like, they thought, for example, some of the students who had graduated and moved on to college realized that, some of the ways in which race and historical racism and present day racism were taught in the district, conflicted with what they understood at the college level. And they realized that after the fact of graduating. A lot of people, unfortunately, also shared personal experiences of racism and, the ways in which they were dealt with in the district. And so that was kind of those responses, and our work with the district basically directly informed the 10 actionable changes that are inside the report. Now that we're trying to improve this teacher survey, we're trying to get a similar sense of what the teachers and faculty experience as in regards to, those who are the teachers who are responsible for teaching subjects like race, whether it's in the humanities or whether it's, in a STEM class even, or, the staff, and if they've experienced racism or things of that nature. So that's kind of what the purpose of this survey is, to complement the student side that we already have.
Okay, and I assume that this is going to be heading towards actual, recommendations, whether it be curriculum, policy, etc.
Yeah. So exactly. So the 10 actionable changes that we've drafted in the report, which is nearly finalized at this point, and that we plan to present to the board sometime in December, per our discussion with Mrs. Vitale, earlier this year. I don't know what the details are on that, but once we do present the report, inside that report has the 10 broad actionable changes, which are broad recommendations, but also housed within each actionable change is more specific recommendations and a timeline that we see. Like, obviously there are some suggestions that are more capable of being done in the immediate term, versus I know like for curriculum reform takes a long time. So we delineate between short-term reforms, long-term reforms, and kind of a comprehensive view of what we see as promoting anti-racism and also racial equity in the district.
Okay, thank you. And then one more question. I was wondering what your relationship has been, or how much conversations you have had with the task force that's getting underway townwide. And obviously you're ahead of them in terms of the, laying the foundation and everything. So I was wondering how that was going.
Are you referring to the anti-racism committee within Fairfield?
I know of it as being called the task force.
Yes, so we have been in contact with many different task force within Fairfield, and just working with them in regards to just having conversations about this sort of things and how we can work together. So I've been in contact with many different task force, including that one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. And just for the board, when I met with the students, we did explain just how, the curriculum, that there is a process within the district in terms of when new curriculum is brought forward, and there's curriculum review committees and many different voices in the community, lend their voices to the work that's being done. And that much of this work, I feel is very, very important. And I appreciate the work that's being done by all the organizations that are with us tonight. In order for there to be true ownership by the district and for this to be long-term, it needs to be owned by the district in some way. I'm going to let Mr. Mike, I don't know if you want to talk about that at all and how you see this moving forward in our district improvement plan and how staff can help guide this work and work with our students to move this forward for real actionable change.
Thank you. Well, as the board knows, one of the commitments as we go forward as a district is to increase the representation of different community groups in our district improvement plan. Certainly, there's a focus on the students and other community stakeholders and the alumni. As the board has long, well, as long as I've been in Fairfield, the board has expressed interest in the opinions and thoughts of our alumni. So in an organized fashion now, we have an opportunity to put those voices to work around just a crucial issue that confronts us as a school system and ultimately helps us move forward as a school system. So we've had some conversations about the curriculum review committee, for example, and I'll just pick on that one area for a second. As the board knows, in our curriculum review process, there's a number of academic questions that we face, including what are the latest standards, what's working in our curriculum, what's not working, what needs to adjust. There are districts in this country already that are beginning to include in their curriculum review process a focus on how the curriculum represents all of our students and all of our populations. That's something that Fairfield has not yet done, but needs to do. So having the voices of the Fairfield Equity Coalition, having the voices of our student groups is going to be crucial to that work going forward. How do we diversify our curriculum so that it truly represents our community? I think that's a very key place where their voices can make a difference. Another area I would put out is how might we begin to look at some of our disciplinary procedures and begin to look at things like restorative justice practices and what would be appropriate places to start to include those in our discipline practices. Students, I first became involved with the award Voices for Equity 2 years ago when they began to have this discussion about restorative practices. So I think there's a number of opportunities where we have reason to authentically include teacher, student, and alumni voices in our work. And so I'm looking forward to this. I think it can be a really powerful way to help drive the district forward and as I said, make it truly an anti-racist institution.
Thank you. Ms. Rotelli? Followed by Mrs. Gerber.
Thank you guys. And it's nice to have you all here. I didn't get a chance to look at the presentation before tonight, but I saw some things towards the end that were exciting with some of the things that you had thought about the future. I'm talking specifically to, I guess, to the high school groups. And I was wondering because I didn't see it in there, if you had thought about including maybe some representation of like neurodiversity. I know there's quite a few of us on the board who are very involved in SEPTA and the Special Education PTA. And I'm just thinking, it's often can be a marginalized group. And I think if I don't know if you guys had thought about including that group and to a rate and awareness of disability bias, which really encompasses all races. And if you're interested, I even think I can think of some kids who would be great, and to be voices and involved at the high school level, could have some really powerful things to share. So it's just
I know Ludlow Voices for Equity, our club leader, Ms. Hunt, is very passionate about this issue, and we were thinking as a club or hoping to work with Unified Sports as a club to also bring in that perspective to the equity work that we're doing.
That's great.
Hi, I'm Sarah from the board. I'm sorry.
Oh, go Sarah. Got it.
That's okay, Sarah. Just say.
I've also had this conversation this year about a week and a half ago with one of the teachers, Miss Cochila. She's one of the teachers at Ward, and she helps a lot with Fairfield, with Voices for Equity. I had that conversation with her because that idea did come to mind this year, but I wasn't sure where to reach out or where to start with that. And I think at the time I was more focused on working on this presentation before getting in, starting a new project.
Sure.
I also wanted to point out that since Black and Brown students are often disproportionately, referred to special ed, it's certainly germane to our entire purpose and mission here. So I can see that being a beautiful addition to our mission. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I have some ideas too, if I'll get in contact and maybe we can share some information.
That was a great point, Mrs. Rotelli, in terms of just equity. If there's other groups, we talk right now, a lot of the focus has been on racial justice and social, for that particular focus for the work that's being done right now. But I think that as we get deeper into these conversations, there's many different populations, such as, disability rights, that they do, cross paths in terms of some of the work that's being done. And as we move forward as a district, I think it's great to just engage each other in having these discussions. So thank you for that. Ms. Jacobson after Mrs. Gerber, right? You had your hand up, Mrs. Gerber?
Am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. It says I'm still muted. Yeah, so thank you very much for all of this information. I guess, I don't know if now's the time to ask or if we're going to talk later, but this is, I guess, more for you, Mrs. Vitale, just in terms of logistics, like next steps. So we're going to be getting the report in December, I believe is what?
Yes, well, for right now, the next steps for the board would be a vote on the survey to allow them just to survey our teachers through Fairfield Public Schools email for the survey to go out.
Right.
If we approve that at our next, that would be up for our next meeting.
Right, it's for November 10th. Okay.
November 10th, the survey would go out. They would collect the results, finalize their report. I did say that if we're going to survey the teachers, we would want them to come back and report on what those survey results lent itself to. They would come back to us and report in December, ideally, either in a regular meeting, depending how our schedule went, or a quick meeting, possibly like this, a virtual meeting again for us to meet, for them to present, just to close the circle of this conversation.
Okay.
And from there, the survey they would be meeting with district staff on what next steps would be in terms of any type of implementation and how, to move it forward. But for the board's purview, that's the way I see it going. Any questions about that?
No, not at all. I just was trying to get a sense of the parameters. And I guess then just moving forward, I think one thing that could be helpful for all of the groups, and they may already be doing this, but just to be aware of when our agendas are posted, also the subcommittees like policy, especially, just to be aware. I mean, at some point we will be having the public can attend our meetings in person, but even now they are still, at least the main meetings are going to be, available on Fair TV, just so that they can go in and see kind of what Board of Ed meetings look like, the discussions we're having. There may be some meetings that have, one or more agenda items that could be relevant to their group. So just, we have kind of the exchange of ideas going back and forth that they're sharing with us, what they're concerned about and what they're working on. And they may kind of get some ideas based on a curriculum presentation or a policy discussion or, anything else that's going on in our meetings or on our agenda. So I just think it would be, for them. And also if there are questions, if they look at an agenda and have a question about an agenda item, to feel free to reach out to us to see what we're going to be discussing and provide some context, just so they'll be able to get more out of the meetings and be able to contribute more, in areas that are relevant to their group.
Very good suggestion.
Yeah. And also, on a side note, I just want to say, I met Lenasia in my capacity as the tree committee on the Parks and Rec Commission, and their group is just fantastic, and I was really happy to be a part of that. And I also want to say I've known Ian since he was 2 years old, and I'm so proud to see him here tonight. So This is really great. I feel like I've kind of come full circle here. So this has really been fun, enjoyable, and educational.
Yeah. Ms. Jacobson, followed by Ms. Leeper.
Hi, I don't know who wants to answer this question, but it's to the two high school groups. Just from a sustainability standpoint, in terms of your longevity and being able to sustain these organizations and this work, obviously over a long period of time, I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your structure in terms of the up and comings, the younger students, and how you're recruiting or reaching out as people come into the schools. And just so that we have an idea of, how this will sustain itself, for a long time.
So yeah, this year we were planning on having a meet and greet, a socially distanced meet and greet outside. I know every year we have some sort of meet and greet with all the younger students, and on the club days, we definitely go around and introduce ourselves to all the freshmen and to older students as well who are looking to branch out. This year we have not been able yet to organize a meet and greet with all that's going on with COVID and everything, but that's definitely on the list.
Okay, good.
Ms. Leeper?
Jen, can I pipe in?
Yes,
Sorry.
of course.
I apologize. Calla, what grade are you in?
10th grade.
Sarah, what grade are you in?
I'm a 10th grader.
So Jen, the reason I wanted them to say that was because we actually have a groundswell of young kids in our organization right now. We actually kind of had a dearth of older representation. And so I think for longevity purposes, we at least have a good solid 3 years of good leadership positions here. And many of our new members are actually freshmen. So we have a huge swath of young kids ready, willing, and able.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm hoping, to Mrs. Gerber's point about just having you all with us today and just following our meetings and becoming more engaged with the board, we're hoping that maybe we can give you some publicity and just, get the word out of the work that you're doing. And maybe that will, other students at both the high schools that aren't aware of the work that you're doing, maybe it'll just give you some good PR and help build your club membership. Ms. Leeper.
I just wanted to sort of jump on what Mrs. Gerber was saying, and thank you all for doing this work. I consider our community incredibly fortunate to have these conversations centered in student experiences and having our young people leading us in a lot of ways. We're very lucky to have you, and I was so appreciative to be able to work with you and learn from you guys this summer. And I look forward to the things that you're going to bring forward. And I'm also thankful to Superintendent Cummings for being really, I think, on the forefront of embracing this type of work. I'm so proud of our district. And I hope that we will be a leader, hopefully not only in Connecticut, but maybe even in the country on this type of work. So thank you to everyone for bringing this forward and in volunteering so much time to do this work. I know it's not easy.
Any other questions from the board? Any more questions from the students for us? Okay, well, to wrap it up, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight and for, introducing yourselves and telling us about the work that you're doing. Hopefully this will be the first of many conversations moving forward. The next action steps for the board will be just to move the survey forward from the Fairfield Equity Coalition. You had the link, you had the PDF. If you have questions or feedback for FEC, you can still forward them to me or the superintendent, and we'll forward them along. They're very open, receptive to feedback. We want it to be meaningful, and you all know our district so well and are a good resource for them. For our high school groups, in terms of the name change, we leave that with the superintendent. And right, that's not something the board needs to vote on, I believe, right?
No.
Okay. And else, I'm assuming, else we see any objections or concerns with that name change? I have not heard any tonight. So we will leave that in your hands, Superintendent Cummings, to move that forward.
I will follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thank you all. So before I let you go, for the students, I'm going to go off agenda a little bit. How are you guys doing with this this school year, this hybrid, remote, pandemic, part 2, spring being part 1?
It's all right. Yeah.
It's all right? No comment?
Well, no, I think the teachers are doing a really good job so far, actually. We've all learned from spring, and I think things run a lot smoother in the hybrid learning.
All right. Not to put you on the spot there. If you want to email us at any time for if you have any feedback or things that you think that we should know from the student perspective, we would welcome that. You can email us at boemembers@fairfieldschools.org, because your voice is important. And I want to thank you. You know, being on the Board of Ed during a pandemic is not always the most uplifting, but meeting with you all tonight definitely was the highlight of the week for me in terms of meetings over the last 7 months or so. So thank you for that. It's so nice to see all of your faces, even if it is virtually. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Gerber, seconded by Mr. Peterson. All in favor? We are adjourned. Motion carries 8-0. I'm sorry, Ms. Picco is on the Board of Education also. She had school tonight, so she was not able to join us, but she sends her regrets for not being able to be here, but is looking forward to seeing you and working with you moving forward, and thanks you for all the work that you've done on behalf of our district and our town. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Great job, kiddos.
Thank you.